Okay, we are live. Live. Okay, we live. I got a little in the background. Let me cut this down. I'm actually on underrated right now. But yeah, we live. Let me go ahead and make sure my headphones set up and everything's good to go. Okay, yeah, I can hear in the headphones. All right, cool. Yeah, starting it out, you see the title, Lovers and Friends. You know, um, what's the deal, man? Like, what are we doing in the community? Lovers and friends. What is the motivation between these lovers and friends? Like, what's going on with the community? What are we building? What are we trying to do? Um, just asking the question. That's all. You know, trying to get some stuff set up here. Wanted to add a little music. I ain't gonna play the whole thing. Just going to do a little bit because my thing is I really don't want to. Um, hold on, that's far wrong share away. Yeah, but I don't want to kind of put this out here. Okay, two monitors, audio, and we're going with the first screen to share. Yeah, man, got it. Drop that back down. Then we're gonna play this music.
Google Fiber wants to know if your internet
Ah,
works right where you are.
okay. See, you know what I'm saying? Want to go ahead and play the little music, but I ain't gonna play the whole thing through now because I don't want to get in trouble for it, you know. But here you go right here. Yeah, but let me go ahead and pull this off. Got underrated in my ear. Actually, just listening to him. But yeah, with the lovers and friends, what's the deal with the relationships? What's going on, Gold Professor in the building? I'm gonna start highlighting people because I don't want to interrupt the broadcast as I'm talking. But yeah, that's a big thing over there. We have those issues within the community of the lovers and friends. But what's going on with the relationships? What's going on with that? No, that's one aspect I'm really trying to pump it into the community. You know, like I said, I'm gonna start highlighting to try to minimize the breakdown of me trying to hit the comments and say hey to everybody, where I can just show your comments as you fall through, and we go from there. Peace to the chat, everybody walking in, everybody coming in, everybody coming in. You know, coming from that aspect of the lovers and friends, and you know, like I said, what we need in the community is marriage, man, making that a standard. Because right now, this hookup culture and everything else that's trying to, make its way within, that's going to be, you know, the push out from the community, and more or less while I'm talking to people about this situation, go ahead and like while you're in here. Um, the biggest thing is the men and the women coming together, you know, it doesn't have to be up under the law in which most people stay together for 20 years. You treat me right, I treat you right. If people choose to go that route, because there's some people don't believe in the whole marriage of the law. I mean, you can actually sign a contract, build a contract. I mean, Complex was a guy that One of the guys said he made a contract for his marriage and it actually worked. You know, he brought up a contract, him and his wife, how things need to be going and how things need to go in the relationship, far as them, splitting and sharing everything down the middle, 50-50, whatever. So be it. That was the way that they went and it worked for them. So people who don't want to get married to that extent, that's an option right there. And just in general, having someone you can come home to. I was on Underrated's channel earlier, and the brother Ricky Williams was talking about how he's just celebrated 21 years of being with his wife. You know, he said it was throughout ups and downs, but the biggest thing that he wanted to touch on was people so quick to get a divorce. I can understand certain topics, if someone's strong about cheating and that going into the marriage and you do it, so it's to a form of disrespect, I can get that. You have people that actually, just certain standards. I like a clean house. You come home every day to a nasty house, it's only so long you can be able to stay in that environment, because that's not of you. Same thing with, cooking. You don't cook, she cooks, and majority of the men always want the women to cook in the space, to the point where you have to set the claim as who's going to be doing the cooking, who's going to be doing the cleaning, who's working in the space, who's actually going to be, putting in that work far as the cooking, who's going to be doing what, far establishing, roles. I mean, people call it gender roles, but the point of it is I cook, my wife cook, you know. With me, I always, tell her I give you a break and, help you cook this day. She might ask me to cook. Cool. It's not a problem with her asking me to cook. You know, I help her out. That's the thing. Even with cleaning, there's processes to the point where I clean, she cleans. She does the bulk more than me because she's majority at home more than me. Same with the cooking aspect. But when it comes down to a point, it's more like a shared chore thing because, you know, I'm not putting my wife in a box of, you're going to do this and I'm the ruler over you if you don't do this or else. It's to the standard of, us uniting and being in a marriage. I mean, it works. You know, the point of me not being a dictator over her, you know, giving her these rules and regulations, she's grown, I'm grown. I can't belittle her because she's a woman and she's married to me by saying, certain things that I would, kind of push on to my kids. I do it jokingly sometime, it's funny, but overall, she get it. She knows I'm playing with her, and it's not nothing that's serious to the point where, she would be like, "Oh, I can't take this no more. I'm gonna divorce you because, you always bully me and boss me around." And it's to the extent I hear so many guys in this space like, "What type of women do you want?" And this whole notion, with the lovers and friends, there's a lot of people. Well, I just say I'm just gonna be up front with it. There's a lot of men in this space would rather have sex than marriage due to the fact they say with the situation that we're in. They can talk, well, I believe in this, what you believe in, but behind closed doors, just face it. There's a lot of guys moving different. You know, they get along. What the old saying, the get along gang. You just get along because you're around a group of guys and you got to fit the part. But when you go around these other people or to yourself, you know, you feel a certain way. You get into them feelings and everything, and that's when you come up with that, the Maxwell joint. The, I crap that up. I always crap it up. But yeah, when it come down to it, it's them feelings that get involved. And a lot of men gotta understand those feelings that you have, you gotta set aside that. And like I always say, deal in facts, not opinions. You know, if you want to get married, it's because you really want to get married. You really want to get married. It's not to the point where you're looking at this situation saying that oh man, this girl, she just got a big butt, so I'm gonna go ahead and marry her for the big butt, and she cute, so I'm gonna marry her because she cute. Like I say, if she can't cook, what's your problem? You know, if she can't clean, like who are you really marrying? You marrying the body, so you got to accept that woman for the body that you're marrying. You're not marrying her because she's a good woman. You're not marrying her because you think she might be good with kids. You marrying her because she got a fine body, you know, and you can't complain. Same thing with the women. Women deal with dudes on a different level, and it don't matter. But the point of it is, women, they deal with men because he got abs, or he might be toting, and then he's putting it down in the bed. But this guy can't do nothing but put it down in the bed. That's one of his perfect skill. But in the end, it's like, how long are you gonna be with someone that just puts it down in the bedroom and that's it? You know, he what they say, what they call it, blow your back out. They sit there and blow your back out, but can't do nothing else. Like, you know what I'm saying? He can't go to work. He can borrow the car while you at work. You come home, the house a mess. He got beer bottles and got his boys over there kicking. But he can put it down in the bed. Y'all about to get put out the house because y'all hit a hiccup with the car, had to get a new motor or something. And when it comes down to it, hey, he can't help pay. He ain't got no job. He ain't got no skills. He only got one skill. You know, unless you're gonna turn yourself into a certified pimp, hey, that's the only thing he can do. He can get some money that way. But do you want to put your man out there like that? From the other aspect of you got a man, he just works. He does everything right, but he has this problem with cheating. You know, and you love him, you want to be with him. He a good man to the kids, he love you, he love the family, but he just like cheating. Most women, they put up with that till they get on in them yesteryears and start to say, I wasted all these years dealing with this man, and all he do is cheat. All he do is cheat. Like I say, it's from the jump. You've been dealing with this situation from this man for all these years, had 3, 4 kids, and you get to the point where you say you just can't take it no more. You just can't take it no more. Now you're leaving 8 years into the marriage, and you found out during the dating process that the dude had a lot of women. Even when you got married, you thought it would change when you got married. Every once in a while you'll get those numbers and those calls pop up to where he walk away. I mean, to be honest, on both sides, women and men kind of hint signs, or some of them sometimes they be wrong within the standing of being wrong. But the whole point, you know, they're just in that relationship because they don't want to be alone most cases. The women, their process is they don't want to be alone. They don't want to be without. They want to feel that comfort. They want to have it to the point where they can say, this is my man. I can go home with him at night, even though we fuss and fight and things go on, in a sense to where I got something more than most of my friends or family members don't. I have a man, you know. Uh-oh, go P. But they have a man, so that's the biggest thing. And you also have these um men that are the same way, you know. Shout out to DS1 this morning. I was listening to what he was saying, the same thing I was gonna touch on. You have the men that are sit there to get married and deal with these women because why? It's easy access. They feel as if they married, they can always have sex, and then when they done with the woman, that they see a better woman, they're gonna just dump her, leave her, go to someone else. Even with the point of not even just being married, just giving the title of that woman that you're my girlfriend, that says a lot too. Because if you look at it, a lot of the women that get caught up with these guys being in relationships for 5, 6 years, generally what's going on? Either they're falling out of love, or it's just from the aspect of this guy's not into me no more. What's going on? It's because in the end, The way to get access to, sex in most cases with guys, they have to establish that relationship. Without establishing that relationship, what are the qualifications, you know, in dealing and willing in the sexual department? Most women, they're not going to try to, get the more women that are not promiscuous, let's say that. They're not trying to give out sex to just anyone, and they're not trying to have sex on the first night. I mean, there's nothing, even if this guy wows the woman, still, they're not going down like that. They're not messing around because she has a standard in which she has for herself that she wants to, uphold. And let me hit this mute real quick, see what one of these kids want. Yeah, kids, man. No, they up here. Close my door. Yeah. So you got these kids in this house. But from the aspect, dealing with that situation, men, they know that far as the access to the woman of dealing with a good woman, because like back to that, she's not actually having sex on the first night, you know. And most cases, guys who really trying to figure out and know what they want out of this woman, they're gonna test the fire most of the time. But other than that, they're not looking at having sex on the first night. If a girl is that easy, I test you. But if you that easy to where you can't hold out to the next day at least, that kind of lets me know what type of situation you're in. Because even though a person that can be cool, calm, and collective, they might say, the process of me dealing with you is something great, but they're not doing that on the first day. you know, Even if they'll tell you on the phone, like, that night or something that, yeah, man, you kind of got me. Cause I mean, I talked to, a couple of women back in the day, and that was their big thing. Like, you're a different guy to the point where, you almost took me off my square when I first met you. You were talking to this on the phone that night, to the whole aspect of, you know, I ain't no macaroni, but my thing is I'm real with it. I'm open, you know, I don't sugarcoat much, I just blatantly tell the truth. When it come down to it in certain situations, some people can take it, some people can't, you know. Like I said, I've dealt with different size and, varies of women, and I've always, talked to them on the plane. If we're going to be together, there's certain things that we need to work on in this relationship, you know, the whole process of getting to know the women on the phone and not just meeting them the first day, go on a date. I've known women on the phone before I actually went out on a date with them. So it was a process to the point where if I meet you, me and you exchange numbers, we can talk that moment, talk to you later. We're talking on the phone like at least about 2 or 3 days before I actually set up a point to where I want to go on a date with you. You know, it's the point of I'm not gonna be in this whole mode of just generally saying that I'm gonna go on a date with her the next day because she's so fine. Maybe she'll get up. No, because my thing is this: with any relationship that you're in, sexually, you got to look at the aspect of you might have a baby. So that was my biggest thing to where if I'm messing with majority of the women who I talked to in the past, if I have a baby, how would this relationship go? you know and for the people that talk about child support and all this, you got to look at it from the aspect of when you have this kid, how's this woman going to treat you? Same process with the women. You carrying the baby for 9 months, so this process should be implemented in your head. I mean, the whole process to where women say, I don't want to give up a child because it's against my religion. I understand that. You shouldn't be having sex without condoms. You should be having sex without protection, because ultimately, if that happens, you're gonna have a baby. Same thing with the man. Men be like, "Oh man, it was a mistake." I mean, the process in play, you knew that this woman was wild and ratchet. You just wanted to hit it because, the booty looked good or something like that. You got to take that pitfall. You got to take that L, man, because, you know, the situation handled, it was kind of handled wrong. And from the aspect of dealing with a situation like that, both of you guys are just taking L's both ways. Whether it be the woman try to get a baby by you to keep you, from that aspect in which you should have been more on your toes, men, to the point, and the man doing the same thing to a woman. Because like I said, it happens both ways. You know, y- in this space, I've seen so many videos about how the women are. I see few videos of how men are holding men accountable, but I see a lot of videos of how these women are. But yet I've not seen these men who always push these narrative on the women to say, I'm not going to deal with them. you know. And if you're teaching other men how to deal with them, let's cut it down to one video a week. How about that? You guys can come at me all day. Once again, I say this is YouTube. I can cut this off. I can go for 6 months. I can go for a year. But I come back. If you still doing the same content, and mine is the same because mine is focused on family. I understand the women have issue. I understand men have fault. I'm not going to hold the women to the fire if I'm not holding the men to the fire. And I understand that. When it comes down to it, situations do occur. But the point of it is you being on your square, like I always preach, knowledge of self, knowing who you are, knowing what you want out of relationships. I'm not going to be having sex in my older years, or even when I start gaining an understanding of what I want to do in life, to go out here and go have sex with a stripper just because she look good. I have to take every pitfall that comes behind that. If I get her pregnant, you know, if she wants to start a family with me, and I know this is not the woman I want to bring home to mom, you know, that's a situation that, you put yourself in by ultimately trying to chase society's form of a good looking woman. You know, when you're dealing with a woman, you got to deal with the woman from the outside and inside. you know, I'm not from the aspect saying that I'm looking for the prettiest. When I was looking at my wife, I was looking at the prettiest woman. I was not looking at the ugliest woman. I started with her beauty, which I can see that was good. And then also her inner, in which, we've talked about things that, she's dealt with. Go, Professor. And the point being in which, in certain instances that you deal like I dealt with my wife, I was more or less focused on how she treats her kids. Because even if I didn't have a girl that didn't have my wife that didn't have kids, I would look at a woman on how she treats her nieces and nephews, how she treats the young kids in her life. I've seen a woman actually yell at a child because the child couldn't talk properly. And that was the thing that kind of like, ooh, she's gonna make a horrible wife. I don't even think she's ever gonna get married, on the premise of her, not having the patience to deal with a child. That's the crazy part. And then you look at the whole, premise of the men as well. Men, oh man, I don't like them little critters. I don't like them little jokers. Look at that aspect as well, to the point where it's like night and day. You have a man that always, preaches on having love for a child. The beauty in marriage is having kids for the majority. For me, that was my biggest experience that I wanted in my marriage, was to have kids. To have my wife bring my beautiful kids into this world. Even though she had her kids, that was my joy. Like I told my wife, on the aspect of us getting married, she was saying how kids, far as dealing with daycare and all those are, kind of tedious to where having people watch your kids and family members saying no, spending money on this, spending money on that. That was my biggest thing to where I wanted kids. I've took care of all my little nieces and nephews over the years. And my thing was this: if I can have my own kids, dealing with a woman that didn't want to have kids, if she didn't want to have kids, she pretty much was just off the books. I don't care how good of a person she was. I don't care, like, just in general. If I couldn't have kids with her, I couldn't see myself with her because my biggest thing was I wanted kids. I wanted to carry on um, the family legacy. I wanted to do things in which my father did, set up a foundation for the kids. And it's up to us how we, kind of proceed with the next generation, or how we're going to treat, you know, our family, in which we're molding, our name to be something great, and that's like the biggest thing. And, like I said, from the lovers and friend aspect, you got to start dealing with these whole process, and people they generally don't do this talking. Just like people in the chat, I'm like I said, I'm not really saying people names. I'm just highlighting their comments as they come in. But the whole point is they're conversating in the chat. I see it. But the issue is people not having conversations before marriage. People are not just even having conversations within relationships. How can you get to the next step of marriage when you don't even have a simple conversation, of how was your childhood? You know, well, you get to the point you meet the mom and dad. Who is the person in your life that pretty much, kind of raised you? Who's the backbone within the family? Who kept the structure of the family together? Those are the questions you need to ask to get an understanding of who and what type of person you're dealing with. You have someone that comes from a broken, home, and not into a serious, not seeing serious relationships going on within their family. Is that something you want to take on responsibility? Do you want to question that to see is it beneficial for the family? And you have people like, I've known women that actually been in situations where their mom was on drugs, just real bad. And to the point where they came out to be model citizens, you know. They was like, my mom was on drugs, came from an abusive relationship, almost got sold away one time for some drugs and this and that. And these women have broke that, that clutch that was holding them back, that they had all the odds against them, and elevated themselves in key positions, being a RN nurse, going into the doctor field, going to be lawyers, just further. They took all that pain and made themselves scribe. I know a guy right now. I'm gonna actually put this on my live. I might not. I'm gonna do a pre-record. I might even do it tonight because I gotta talk to the guy and talk to him and talk about some more things with him. And I'm gonna put it on as a pre-record. Me and this guy talk. This guy's pretty. I'm not gonna say he's wealthy, but he's budgeted his money well and he does good for himself. And to the issue that he carries himself within the way that his family is looking at him from the aspect, you got it. Why not? Why not give it to us? Or why not help us out? You know, and he's looking at them like we all came from the same, pot. Just like Gold Professor, you understand with your gumbo. We're all coming from the same pot in which, we're dealing with things, you know, me and my brothers, we all from the same, within the family. But the whole point, everybody went their own ways as they grew up to kind of, build a better self, build a better life for them, you know. And from that aspect, I know a guy, I actually seen this guy on YouTube. This guy was home. This guy literally born. His mom didn't want him. He's one of the kids that they left at the fire station. Left the child at the fire station. This guy has became a multi-millionaire. He stayed in shelters all his life, stayed in foster care till he turned 18, to the point where nobody wanted him. And he took it upon himself to be great from the aspect of him, you know, learning that I have a situation that is not going to hinder me in life. You know, I've had ups and downs to where foster families would not get me. I've had ups and downs to where, you know, my own mom didn't want me. I don't even know where my dad was at that process. Did he even know I existed? Did he know I was born? You know, he knew none of that. All he knew was he had to be a better man than his parents were, you know, a better man than his father and his mother, not just excluding the father, not just excluding the mother, to be better than both of them. You know, his mother could have been a multimillionaire and left him on the steps. Who knows? But the point of it is, out of all that, he achieved greatness. You know, same thing with the young lady I knew. Out of all her situation, she achieved greatness. You know, people break through with that. Then you have the people who have two-parent households, they can't make it out. You have the people that are coming from the single mothers or single fathers that which never gets recognition. There's men who are taking care of their kids. Shout out to Dre, you know, shout out to Drake. You know, Dre married doing his thing. You know, his boy Charles, man, you know, he has his son. You know, there's another guy that I forgot the name of the guy. He has his child. You know, there's a lot of men that, you know, take care of their kids, but they don't get the recognition because why? We've always had this mentality to where, you know, the women get the kids, the man, you know, they're kind of unfit parents to the point where the CDC, that's why I say what the CDC did that breakdown of black men actually being good fathers. I told on this channel, I told on several channels before. The CDC only reported from the information that they got. But the news, what they did was just reported on a few people that were doing harsh crimes that did wasn't paying taxes. I mean, one paying child support. But if you look at it as a whole, black men have always took care of their kids. Majority of them never stopped being good men. But you got to understand, one bad apple spoils a bunch completely. You know, you'll have a man every weekend wants to go. There's a guy, you know, perfect. I'm gonna shout out to Perfect Timing Podcast, man. I might put his link in the chat. Where Perfect Timing, he sit up there, said how he would go to his ex house just to go to the door for her to say he can't see his son. He's banging on the door. The boy's on the other side banging, and they're crying both on opposite sides, you know, because he want to see his son. He's paying whatever he had to do for child support, all regards on just seeing his son. You know, you have men like that. So when you have these men that ultimately don't pay child support, he gets swooped up with them, you know, as being an unfit father. You know, you have the women that, you know, the same situation that we came with, the woman that left her kids in the hotel to go to work. Granted that, you know, that was irresponsible for her, especially at that young of an age for those kids. But the point of it is, you have a mother that's surviving, doing it all on her own. You know, she's putting the kids in daycare. She's spending her last. I know a family member like that. She would always make sure the ends meet in the process of feeding her family. You know, her son. Just it was just her and her son before the son had other siblings come along. Her and her son pretty much worked it out. She would, you know, go buy him something to eat. She'll go buy some rice, potatoes, a bag or something. She'll get his little kid burgers, fries, you know, cook them home cooked meals to the point where there was hardly to the point where they never really ate out. It was more of a special occasion for him. And, you know, to the point where it was situations that I would help out in those matters, and it was appreciated, you know, to the point where I seen her struggling, and I seen the situation in which it was almost like an instant in which I was reflecting on my mother, how she struggled with us, and you know she did what she did. So I helped the lady out, essentially friends of the family, you know, and stuff like that. But I started calling my auntie and stuff like that, and you know, calling a little dude, my cousin, and you know, brought this guy up working on him. I knew what the situation was going to be down the line. So I kind of put him in the process to saying that, hey, take this path, do this and do that. Ultimately, he chose a different path, had a different outcome. But, there was not a situation to the point where I can blame him, because you got to look at his environment and how he was raised. Like I said, there's some people that come from the environment, they want to leave and get out. But there are some people, they want to just be, you know, absorbed by their environment. They want to fit in. And the kids that normally try to fit in, they just don't make it. You know, from the aspect of, getting along just to be getting along, you got to understand from that aspect, there's only so much you can do within the community to actually, make it out, getting out to survive. That's like the biggest key in most cases. For the people coming in, like I said, I'm shouting you out by highlighting your comments as you come in. I'm trying to keep uh the process going, because I'm trying to keep it within the hour. But like I said, from the whole lovers and friend aspect, marriage is the key, marriage is the goal. I mean, understanding that in this space, I'm seeing that a lot of guys don't want to get married because of the situation of the women. If these women are not to your liking, I mean, my thing is, deal with the women that are. Why are you checking for women that don't want to check for you? Why are you talking about the women that don't want to talk about? When am I going to hear? Yeah. When am I going to hear a broadcast, instead of talking bad about the women? When am I going to hear ultimately, like, hey guys, these are the women that are over here choosing. We need to flock over here to these women. These are the women that are, a potential mates. These are the women over here that guys need to run across, but we're not doing that. These are the women of this, these are the women of that. You don't hear that. You know, you don't hear that in the space. You don't hear, man, these women are great. Let's go with these women. These women over here, they act a certain way, but these other women, they act even better, man. Let's try to figure out how to get with these women. The top tier. If I always push this, you have a guy who they call the Pookie, that's out there slanging and banging in the street, doing this thing, GQ status. And then you'll have uh, a guy that comes in too, that's on some this mentality of, I'm going to school, I'm bettering myself, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. I'm going to provide for my family. The educated guy. You got the educated guy, you got the rough guy. Now you put a Honda in front of both of them, they're going to say, man, that that's cool, I like that Honda. Then you put the Bugatti in front of them, what they going to say? Oh man, but the Bugatti though, man, I want the Bugatti. I want the Bugatti. Both of those guys are going to be interested in the same thing, knowing that Bugatti is out of both of their range. You can be this whole high value thing that they push, unless you have a certain amount of money. But I think it's like $50,000 a year for service, or 20,000 for service. And what was it? The guy was saying 20,000 for a tire. Who has $10 to $20,000 for a tire for that Bugatti? I'm waiting. I don't think too many people have that much money for that Bugatti. But from the aspect, both of those men wanting that same woman, because that's what society has deemed a certain look and standard on which the guys should be with the women. And from the aspect I'm telling you on that is, men need to start having a standard of, yeah, she pretty, she cute, but what's her mind like? How was she raised? These are the women that I want to be after. These are the women that are marriage material. But if you only look at the outside and not the inner, you'll never get to the point of happy wife, happy life. Not saying that men should kiss the feet of the women, because you got to understand, if your wife's happy, you happy. That's where that concept comes from. You know, you taking care of the family, what's that going to put her in the mindset of? Being happy, you know, being understanding. She knows that you care and, the process. If you're coming in saying that, man, I'm only mess with you because of the kids, you dampen her spirit, and from the point you look at it, it's like, dude, you kind of pushing her away. Like these are the conversations that we got to have, like get some understanding on what's going on. You know, what is the situation that we're going to deal far as within the community? What is the situation we're going to deal in far as the family structure? Because that's my whole thing. Like I keep saying, I'm going to push the channel about family. When it comes down to it, there's a lot of guys that really just don't see this type of structure of family, you know. And like I said, shout out to DS1 again earlier. You know, DS1 he hit me with, that he hit the panel with the whole thing of, never got that introduction on paying bills and having an understanding about love more through and what women to pick. It just kind of fall in place. It was like a trial and error thing in most cases with some people. It was like a big trial and error. It was like a big trial and error in most cases with, some people, that the trial and error that they were facing were just plain and simple. They didn't know, you know, it was the lack of knowledge. Like I said, I was looking at that and I was like, hold on. Well, I was taught to, my grandmother, she set me down and was like, look, these are the bills. We got to pay these bills and, mail this in and write this in. And as I got older, I think one time she had got sick and I actually went upstairs, got a purse, went on my laptop because I had a laptop then, got all the bills, sat down at the computer, paid all the bills through her account. She got out of the hospital and she was saying, oh, I got to pay these bills and I got to do this and I got to do that. And I like, grandma, I paid everything but the rent. And she was like, oh, you paid the light, water, gas? And yeah, how you do that? I said, I took your card. I got access to the computer. I end up getting on the computer, signed on to made an account, paid the bills that way. She was like, oh, okay, And I told her, I say, for future reference, if you want me to pay it, I got the account number stuff here. And, it kind of helped her out a little easier for me to do that. But, old people, they're generally used to paying these bills that way. So they kind of, look at it as, okay, it's nice. And, I don't want nobody to steal my credit card information. But it was the process in which she showed me to the point where I looked at it and the newer way, I made it better. Same thing with balancing a checkbook. Learn about that. When it came down to it, where they start putting everything online, I didn't have to balance a checkbook. I can go online, see all my transactions, see how much money I got. But that was the main issue, how they start pushing the fees, doing it that way. I'm kind of getting off the subject, but, rolling it back into it to the point where, having structure, and dealing with that bond in a relationship far as the lovers and friends aspect. You got to start vetting process of dealing as friends first. That whole process of going out on that first date, that whole process of, trying to mingle and stuff, you're figuring out who you're dealing with, asking these questions. That's why it's always better to talk to a woman or a man on the phone before going out on a date, because you can learn a whole lot about somebody on the phone before you even go out. You got to see what words trigger them. I'm not going to say the lady name. She's in this space. She was mad at a man who didn't bring her a gift on the first date. And when I asked her, I said, did you guys agree to bring gifts? She was like, no, it's the thought that counts. So I was literally mad at him the whole date because of that. And when I asked her that question, she was like, yeah, you're right. I said, well, did he pay for the dinner? Yeah. Did he drive and everything, took you out to eat? Yeah. And when she thought about it, she was like, dang, I was being real childish. Now that you say that, because I was holding a grudge on what he did to me, and actually everything else he did was better. He paid for the meal, drove, we had great conversation, but she ultimately probably, even missed her chance at a great man because she mad because she bought a small gift. I'm not even gonna say the gift because it's just something small. It was something thoughtful that they talked about, and she brought it less than $5. Dude paid for the meal, drove, but the whole aspect of him not bringing that little one small thing ruined that whole relationship with her. Potentially might be a husband or not because of that little small thing. And that was the crazy aspect of it, you know. And like I said, dealing with the men, same way. You'll have a man that sit there, and because she don't have sex on the first night, oh, it's over. You know, I ain't getting, yeah, it come down to it. They A lot of them they do that, but men are the same way. If she don't have sex on the first night, I'm gone. You know, if you know she don't listen to me when I say, men kind of force you're forcing something on these women without even getting an understanding of who they are and knowing, because it will save you a lot of headache talking on the phone, seeing what type of woman you dealing with before you even go on that date, you know, and to the standpoint where a lot of men don't do that. They just jump into a relationship. Hey, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Not knowing that, hey man, this girl got daddy issues. You talk to her on the phone, you'll see. Yeah, my daddy ain't this. The women that always push that my daddy ain't ish. He was never around. And then the more you start talking, what you gonna do for me? I had a relationship with a girl. She told me, it was like when I was younger, you know, she was like, all my boyfriends bought me shoes. You gonna buy me a pair? I'm like, you got enough. She had like, it's mainly Jordans. She had like 3 pair of Jordans, I believe. 4 pair. It was 4 pair of Jordans. So I figured 4 dudes bought her a pair of shoes. So I'm like, okay, cool. And she was like, you gonna buy me a pair? We'll see. My intentions was no, because if I gotta buy you shoes to be in a relationship with you, that shows the extent of the relationship is gonna be from that point on. I kind of knew that it wasn't gonna last that much, and plus she was a little younger than me, and I don't typically deal with younger women because I was more mature, for myself, and dealing with younger women, I found that hard to get an understanding that, because to my understanding that the women are supposed to be mature with this and that, and you know it was crazy, and I'm like, she's she's not even mature, I guess. Like they say, the people you hang around with and stuff from that nature, and it kind of put me in the mindset of, yeah, you'll be the only one. Like, she actually ruined it for even looking at a younger woman. Even the way she carried herself was, not that bad, but she had little ways. And I was like, it ain't working, you know. And it comes from the aspect of, willing and dealing in the relationships. And you'll start to seeing a level of respect for each other before you go on that date. You'll start saying, okay, well, she thinks this way. She does things this way. She carries herself this way. Like, one of the biggest things with my wife, when I met her, she was always on a point of dress to impress. She always dressed, more casual, sandals, flats, and all that, versus wearing sneakers. She hardly ever wore tennis shoes. Even when she went to the store or something, she had like some little dress type of flats that she wore, you know. And I was like, okay. And when I got with her, I started buying little clothes here and there for her. I'm like, look, wear this. And she was like, well, this look nice. She's like, how are you able to pick certain clothes and this and that? And I'm like, well, I kind of see what women like, seeing the different colors you like. Because for people that don't know, I used to want to go into fashion. I used to have a little book where I was actually going to go to school for that. And when it boiled down to it, I just took a different path, because ultimately, when I didn't go to college, that was one of the career choices I was going to take, business management, and go into that field. And with me changing, doing a job that actually paid well for myself, that was a different career path I took. But I was still sticking to it. I would always, typically talk to different ladies that dressed a certain way. So you know, I always took it to the point where, I did it that way in the aspect of learning women. Because, like I said, I had older women that talked to me, and they pretty much said the game was you gotta know what a woman wants, and she gotta knows what she gotta know what you want. The whole aspect of vetting is to have an understanding of your woman. You're not dealing with a stranger, you're dealing with your woman. So, from the aspect of you understanding her, then you know yourself, because you want to move a certain way. And let me pull up my with gold P, the 9 laws of self govern. You know, the 9 laws of self govern, I already know rule number one, two, three, all the way down to nine. But building something, you know, you got to start in a relationship building. And the aspect of you building in that relationship, you're trying to learn your woman, not to make you a better you, but to understand her, so you know who you're dealing with, you know. And the things that Gold Professor always focus on is pretty good. I like the Gold Professor Radio, the 9 laws of self govern. He talks about that on building yourself. And I tell my wife the same aspect. These laws are not just for men; it's for women as well. I'm gonna go ahead and run through them, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and close out after this. But 9 laws of self govern. Rule number one: discipline. You know, doing what it takes as far as the relationship. Having established things with your wife, getting an understanding of what you want out of the relationship. I mean, a girlfriend just in general before a wife, but knowing what you want out of a relationship and being disciplined to carry certain things out. Discipline in the sexual department to where you're not trying to have sex with her just to get to know her. You got to have discipline from that. You know, protecting yourself. Rule number two: protecting yourself in the aspect of, you know, it simply means that protect yourself. You don't want to get in a bad situation to where you can't get out. Protecting your mind, protecting your body. You know, and come from that point, the spirit. Also, rule number three: apply selfishness. You have to worry about yourself. You know, I'm gonna say this. When it comes down to it, you know, you literally have to apply selfishness in certain aspects to the point where you get into a relationship and you see that you're doing so much for this woman and she's not being appreciative of it. You know, you got to apply selfishness. Think about yourself. Even in a marriage with me, at some time, I apply selfishness. I have times to where I go out, kick it with the fellas and do certain things. My wife knows, and it just I need that time for me. I need to do what I might want to do something with the kids, and I get to the point where I be like, man, I've been working hard and I want to just go hang out with the fellas and kick it and be cool, you know. Uh Number four, read. You know, reading is fundamental. Wednesday work with a Gold Professor in reading, he always focusing on the books, giving an understanding, not just from books, you know, talking about various of things as far as reading, poems, you know, reading of the mind, knowing your pitfalls. No, it's more like giving yourself a diagnosis, like going to a psychologist or something. You know, it's right. You know, and once you get that understand, what you're doing within yourself goes a long way. Five, exercise. You know, you want to get to the point where you want to move around, exercise the mind, elevate yourself, your spirit, get that body tone in that form. Also, we're going to look at number 6, know your worth. And number 7, know who you are. Those can be, like old professor say, swapped in and out, because you got to understand, if you know your worth and you know who you are, hey, that's knowledge itself. Knowing who you are, knowing your worth, digging it, getting the understanding on how you move is key. Then rule number 8, building something. I talked on that earlier, or what are you going to do for the family? This boyfriend and girlfriend is cool, but if you're going to build something, as far as a marriage, family, you got to have a structure, got to have the discipline. So what are you going to build? Start with that aspect. And from the point, like I'm getting with this topic of lovers and friends, you start off as the friend, then you start to get into the aspect of more into love. And then what? Just stay there for 10, 12 years, get into the marriage, you know, get into a devotion of, dealing with that woman. And then we're going to touch on the last one. Rule number 9, plant these seeds and watch them grow. From the aspect of not only dealing with kids, but dealing with situations in your life. I mean, look at a marriage bloom. You plant that seed of that ring and watch how the marriage goes from there. Like I said, there's some people that don't believe in the sanctioned marriage. You can just write out a contract, not even just that, because I mean, more or less with the contract, you're helping far as court proceedings to kind of, disperse things, or from the aspect of, if somebody dies, they'll be your beneficiary, almost like a trust, to the point where you're not leaving someone without anything. You know, you're not putting yourself in a situation to where you're putting harm on your mate. Because like I say, my thing is this: I got into the life insurance to help my wife out and help out my boys. The kids. My 2 older kids, they getting something too. My daughter and my son, they get something. But from the aspect of they're not going to get more than the younger ones because they're adults now. You know, I'm helping them along the way now. We can work, there's certain things and aspects in which they might come to their mom about something, it's coming from the household, you know, and the issue at hand, if something happens to me, they're getting something. My younger boys, they're getting something, you know, and, for people that don't know, my younger boys, I always say that, but I got twins, 2 boys. They're not identical, they're fraternal. But the aspect with those 2 guys, like I weigh heavy on them. I tell them get a lot of stuff together, you know, and have things within the life in which they can build on. I push that within the family to where my sons, I hold them to be a certain standard. Even with my 2 older kids, my daughter and my other son, I tell them the same thing. You know, there's things you want in life, you got to go for it. You know, and when it comes down to it, hey, I'm here for you. We can work it out. We can talk. From the aspect of money or not, because my thing is still, if you need a little help, life doesn't stop at 18. Most people, we push that amongst our kids, but if our kids doing right, they come to us with certain things and we push it that, yeah, you can do this, you can do that. I'll help you out with this and help you out with that. So, from that aspect, let's will and deal with the family structure. Let's get back to the old ways of set, mindset of, having a family, structuring things to where the kids will be taken care of, in aspect as well. My wife has life insurance too, to where if something happens to her, not only will, you know, the kids be taken care of, there'll be some money left over to, you know, help with the bills and pay certain things. It's not as much as aspect as mine, but to the extent she has some money for me set aside just as I have for her. But from my standing, mine is a little bit more than hers because, you know, with me being the breadwinner of the house, things and structures are going to be broken down without my income. Perfect time, man. I just talked about you earlier, man. You have to rewind and pop the podcast back again, man. I tried to keep it on an hour, man. I might let people up, but I was trying to keep it within an hour and everything. But like I said, the whole lovers and friends aspect, start off as friends, gathering a little information about one another, before that date structure. That's the whole thing. You want to start knowing this person before you go out on a date. You know, this lady don't like eating vegetables. She's not like Go Professor. She's not a vegan. When it comes down to the aspect, she might like eating vegetables, but she don't eat Brussels sprouts. And she might don't eat broccoli or okra or something like that. In the South we love okra, but I don't think I eat is fried okra. Even though I got older, I've started to eat the the slimy okra, but not as much. I don't like it. I eat it every now and then if some old person, family cook it. But we ain't cooking, slimy okra. My wife, she cook it. I don't eat it. I tell her I ain't eating that stuff. I don't eat corned beef hash. I ate it before, just don't like it. Don't have a taste for it. But, she eats it. She from up north, like it. Got my sons liking it. Well, one of my sons like it. But when it comes down to it, from the aspect of knowing that when you go on a date, if she don't like Chinese food, why are you taking her to a Chinese or hibachi restaurant? Almost same thing, from the aspect in which you dealing with other things, far as colors. She don't like pink. First thing you do, come there with a pink bouquet of roses. I mean, just knowing certain little things, even with her standing, she knows like your favorite color is blue. So she might wear blue on a date just because she know you like blue. And all of a sudden, guess what you coming in? Blue. You know, how? How ironic. Go Professor, you should be eating okra, man. Eat your vegetables, man. You vegan. You supposed to eat okra. But yeah, man, I'm gonna go ahead and drop this. And yeah, when it come down to it, like I said, the whole aspect of dealing in a relationship. Yeah, lovers and friends. I don't want to play the music too much because I'm trying not to get my screen cut and stuff like that, but get these copyright. But that's why I'm paying a little bits and pieces of it is. But shout out to everybody that came through in the chat. I see you in here. And as it stands, we here in the building. We are here. We are here. Shout out to everybody that came, fell through. When it come down to it, we here building channels. We here working with each other. We are here. We are here. We are here. Everybody that fell through, nice to see everybody. Once again, once again, once again. And I think that is everybody, you know. And we're going to end with this, like I always say, building with the family takes steps, you got to implement those steps, within the family. The key, life insurance, generational wealth. Take care of the next generation. Don't just worry about you and your wife and say, screw the kids, screw the grandkids. You got to have some type of dedication to be there for the family. That's the biggest thing. Having that dedication to be there for the family, getting some type of things in play that set your kids up for generational wealth. Give them the mindset on business, on how to structure life, how to pay bills, how to do certain things, thinking about savings. I wish I would have ended up got a life insurance for my boys when they were real young. Even though I got one for them, I'm actually gonna get their own whole policy now that they're getting up in years. So by the time they at least get 20 to 30, I say at least by 30, they can start withdrawing from that money, you know, buying a house. They can buy one. I'm setting it up to where they at least have that money set up to buy a house in their 30s. I've told my oldest son to get him some life insurance. I go ahead and pay it for a certain amount of years. Then after that, he'll be liable for it. Same thing as my daughter. But these sunflower free spirit kids, gotta watch them. So even though I have insurance on them, but I would want them to get whole life because they're building that. Like I said, my thing is this: that whole life process I got, I can give myself a loan. You know, how many people can, unless you got a 401k, same process. Give yourself a loan, pay it back. The interest that you're paying is for you. You're paying yourself back long term. I've seen people pull money out, go buy houses. That's another investment, you know. So be smart. It's only right. You go into a bank, they're not going to give you that money. So you got to look at it from that aspect as well. Then going back to the other aspects too, where, you're willing and dealing, you got to look at the whole issue of when you're married, taking care of your kids, that life insurance, taking care of your wife, you know, taking care of yourself, start exercising more, men, women as well, you know, find ways to, build, build your health, you know, move this, excuse me. But said enough. Now I'm gonna go ahead and end this. But like always, we gone.